name's Sarah Kilmartin. I'm the CMO of a company called Hiyacar, which is great. I don't need to actually introduce it because that's just been done for me with the Airbnb of cars. And we're here to create a social revolution, but I'm going to talk about that a bit later. I'd like to talk to you today about flexible working. And flexible working in the context of, is it actually already a thing of the past? Flexible working is a subject that fascinates me greatly, not least because it's something that I've experienced personally, but also because it's something that is now in the headlines, in the newspapers all of the time. Something that used to be confined to conversations in a HR room or confined to conversations between an employee and a manager is actually something that is now hitting the BBC headlines. The more I read about it, the more I experience it, the more I actually question flexible working and start to think about future generations and what it's going to mean for my children and that generation. I've experienced flexible working in my career, both at BMW Group, also T-Mobile, which then became Everything Everywhere, and Sainsbury's. At T-Mobile, I would say actually only about 25% of my team were on what we describe as normal 9-to-5 hours, and the rest of the team had flexible working contracts. At Sainsbury's, I was working a 4-day week after I returned to work from having 2 children, ages now 3 and 18 months. And at BMW Group, there was a policy and a contract in place. But actually, is flexible working more than just a contract and more than a policy? And what should it be? I'd like to take you on a bit of a journey through flexible working that is through my own personal experiences and stories, but not necessarily as a HR person or an expert or a theorist in this. Just somebody with some strong opinions, but that are loosely held. So I'm happy to have a chat about them during coffee and tea later. So let's look at the headlines. Flexible working, like I say, is something that used to be confined to having a conversation with a manager or a boss, and something that you would look at as a policy. But actually, flexible working is now, I can't actually log on to my LinkedIn profile without seeing another article or post about LinkedIn. And it's something that is not only now in LinkedIn, it's something that is across the BBC, Daily Mail, The Sun. These are the kind of headlines we're starting to see. Timewise have recently done a really amazing campaign. For those of you that don't know Timewise, it's a website where you can post roles that are flexible, and they're really championing this at the moment with their flex appeal. The death of the word day is 9-to-5, obsolete. These are the real headlines that we're seeing, and we're starting to see government discussing this a lot more. But it's more than just in the headlines. This has made me start to think, well, where did flexible working start? Why do we have flexible working? Was there a moment in time where we became so fed up of working between the hours of 9 and 5 that we had to create something that we described as flexible? Or was it born out of necessity? For me, I believe it's the latter. Because actually, as more and more women return to work after maternity leave, this has grown, by the way, in the last 10 years by 10%, according to the Office of National Statistics. I actually believe it's higher than this, but that's the reported number. Actually, it becomes a necessity to have to work flexibly because you now have 2 parents in the family, both working. And that creates a need for each of you to have a little bit of give and take in life. 38% of women who return from maternity leave go back to work on flexible hours. That's absolutely fantastic. Only 6% of men with young children work flexibly. 38%, 6%. A huge difference. But not only that, why do we have to have children and families to flexibly work? What if actually 38%, 40%, 50%, 100% of us, regardless of whether we had families or not, worked flexibly? Women are really, really leading the charge on this right now. Flex appeal, companies like Timewise are helping really actually get behind this and get us right into the headlines. But there's another whole group of people that are joining women, which is fantastic to see. Enter Generation Millennial. This is the generation they lust after experiences and memories more than necessarily financial security. What if, for this generation, what if a flexible working policy was because they wanted to practice yoga or become a Pilates teacher like myself, or a photographer or a chef or a doggy walker? Why is flexible working policies confined to being somebody who has to look after a family or be a carer? Policies and contracts need to extend way beyond families and carers. This generation are looking for experiences, They're lusting after life and memories. That actually isn't, that's not just a generation millennial thing. That is actually, my generation started this. I'm not quite generation millennial. I'd like to think that I'm early generation millennial. But actually my generation started to question the notion and ethics of my parents' generation. My parents' generation, my dad, who worked, he lived just to work. His goal was retirement, it still is. And he's still working hard towards retirement. But actually, retirement isn't the goal for my generation. We have a different goal. We have different ideas. Actually, I had this conversation with my dad just before we had children. About 3 years before, my husband and I decided that we'd quite like to travel a bit. So as you do in the kind of cycle of renewing your mortgage to jump onto the next best deal, we decided to take some money out of the house and remortgage and put aside a savings fund to go traveling. And we said over the next 3 years, we named 4 countries that we'd like to go to: Vietnam, Argentina, Brazil, and China. And over the next 3 or 4 years, we took 3 or 4 weeks off each year and we did a bit of traveling. I told my dad what I was going to do. Dad, I'm going to remortgage the house to go traveling. He literally choked on his yogurt, fell off his chair and said, "Are you utterly crazy?" He was stunned. He could not believe that I would sacrifice all those years of work and that money that I had earned and that financial security that I was building to start a family on travel. He said, his words were, "You can travel with work, Sarah." Okay, that was just, that kind of saddens me, but doesn't surprise me. And it's a mindset shift. We are entering this mindset shift. My generation's mindset is very different to my parents' generation. We are actually rejecting working to live. We're rejecting the notion that retirement is the goal. The next thing that's actually making quite a big difference, which we all experience every day, right now in the audience, I can see it happening too, is that technology has changed. Of course, technology has become an enabler for change, has become an enabler for flexible working. But technology is also quite disruptive. It's very difficult not to look at a text, even when someone stood next to you, looking you in the eye, having a conversation with you. It's difficult not to be distracted, and the same happens at work. Our 8-hour day is now punctuated with moments of personal influence coming into a work day because of technology, a Snapchat image, a story on Instagram, a WhatsApp message that comes in. We can't help but be distracted. So as much as technology is an enabler, it's actually what I would call a positive distraction from the working life day. I was actually coming down the escalators at Liverpool Street Station yesterday and saw a poster for a company called Quandu who do restaurant bookings, an app for those that don't know. And it said, "Book your meal for tonight whilst in a meeting." That's a classic example how technology is disrupting, but enabling, but also disrupting this balance and blend of work and life. So let's take you through a real example of this. This is a day in the life of me. So this is last Thursday. This is a real example and a real diary of what happened last Thursday. I woke up early, I checked some Slack messages. I responded to some of our community team who were dealing with some car owner drop-offs from the night before. I got myself and the 2 children ready to go out for nursery, dropped them at nursery at about 8:15. Jumped on the train, checked a press release that was going out that day, approved that and sent it off. Got into a PR meeting. We had some great discussions and ideas about some PR stories that we could look at for the next couple of months. I got the dreaded phone call that said, "nursery," on the phone. I thought, oh, seriously, guys, I'm really sorry. Just give me a second. Monty's limping. Monty, this is Monty, my little 18-month-old. What do you mean he's limping? Is he okay? Is he crying? Is he upset? Is he distressed? No, he's just limping. Okay, thanks for that. What do you want me to do? Nothing, we just thought we'd let you know. Okay, thank you, that's great. They're great, they're really proactive, but hey, I finished the PR meeting and that was great. I've got about a 10-minute walk back to the office. During that 10-minute walk, my mum phones about coming down this week because she's gonna help us with some childcare over the weekend while I go to my friend's 40th. Quick chat with my mum. Get into the office, I meet our chief commercial officer to go through budgets because we're doing a big campaign in November. At the estate agent phones me. This is my house. We're selling our house in London. We're doing the usual escape to the countryside. We're moving out to Hertfordshire. So I speak to the estate agent about the house. jump back into work, look at some invoices, sign off some campaign activity that we're looking to do, as I mentioned, in November. And then a Pilates, a client texts me about their back's really sore and they want to book in an extra session with me on Thursday. That's absolutely fine, no problem, can do that. Finish off some stuff in the office during the day, hop into a meeting with our founder to discuss some digital marketing activity, head home, go to a personal training session, have my tea, log back on later to write my presentation for today. What was work and what was life? There is no difference. I don't compartmentalize anymore work and life. It's just a blend. I have many roles. What was my role? Am I CMO? Am I Pilates teacher? Am I mom, working mom? It's just life. I don't have a particular hat that I wear at this hour and this hour. I blend my roles. I fulfill all of them over the course of a day. So one more thing to add to technology changes and our mindset change is our change in values. So there's a chap called Jem Bendal. He is at the University of Cumbria. He's a professor in sustainability and leadership. He wrote a book called Helping Capitalism, and in this book he wrote a fascinating piece about what's happening in terms of people's changing how they feel about bringing their whole selves to work. And this is something that really gets me. Why in the past did we feel we had to leave our personal lives at the door? Somebody actually said that to me when I was at BMW Group. When I left university and went to work, somebody said to me in the first couple of years, you know, one of the things that will help you succeed is leave your personality, your personal life at the door. This is what you wear, this is how you dress, this is what you look like, this is how you act in work. Okay, great, so I'm now an actor in work. I have 2 different hats. Okay, I get that. All right, I can do that. I can do this. That's fine. And I did. I've done it for nearly 15 years. But why should we leave ourselves at the door? And this is a Jem Bendal's argument. He's saying there's a whole generation of people starting businesses, and I suspect the vast majority of you in this room fit this bill, are starting businesses that want people to bring them whole selves to work. They've got different values. And for me, this is critical. If we can bring together our heart and our values with task, we create purpose, we create meaning. And that means that we can start to create a really exciting place to work, live, work. Before we actually had offices and businesses and structure and timetables, there was no divide between work and life. Hundreds and thousands of years ago, and there's still many cultures that do this, and people wanting this lifestyle going off-grid. We looked after our cattle and our herds, we foraged for food, we went and got water, we sat around firesides, had conversations, we made tools, we educated ourselves and our families, we cleaned ourselves, looked after ourselves. What was work and what was life? There was no difference. When did we take work out of life? And when did we start to compartmentalize? I believe it's when we commoditized our time. We said that certain hours of the day are chargeable and certain hours of the day are not chargeable, and we're going to divide that up. But actually, that isn't reality anymore. I think it's when during this time, we lost sight of the purpose, really. And if we can reconnect with the purpose, which is Jem Bendal's argument, we can start to create something quite exciting. And that, for me, brings me to the present day. This is what I was looking for after 13 years of being in the corporate world. And as I say, having experienced lots of positive stories and experiences around flexible working, I decided I did want to do something different. And again, I imagine quite a lot of you in this audience have been through this yourselves. I decided I wanted to do something with purpose and meaning. So I set out to be a Pilates teacher. And then I had my 2 children, 2 maternity leaves. You have a lot of time to think on your own on maternity leave, which can be dangerous. And I said, right, that's it. I'm going to go and do the Pilates teacher. I'm going to do that because that has purpose and meaning. But no, actually, it didn't quite do for me what I thought it would. And I realized, actually, that I really missed business. I really missed marketing. And just because I enjoy business and marketing didn't mean that I couldn't do something with purpose. And that's when I left Sainsbury's, and I decided that I was going to look for something with purpose and meaning. I left Sainsbury's with nothing to go to. I did some contracting with some really fascinating businesses, and at the same time was able to do my Pilates training and spend a couple of days a week with the children while they're really young. And this was fantastic. This was the aha moment for me. Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go, I hear regularly, because my daughter loves Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But the Seven Dwarfs had it right. Hi-ho, let's off to work we go. What a positive, lovely, optimistic attitude. They didn't see work as being something that we had to divide. They all had their roles, their tasks. And if we can do something with purpose, then that's how we should feel. And that's exactly what most roles, in fact, every role has a purpose. Doctors go to work to help people. Lawyers help protect and keep people honest. As a product developer, you're developing technology that could impact and influence the way that we live. All roles have purpose and meaning. And that's what I love about hiyacar and what brought me to hiyacar. Hiyacar is on a mission to change the way that societies live and the way communities live and the way that we think about and use cars. 95% of cars are idle 95% of the time. They're sat out there doing nothing. Cars are assets, liabilities. They're not assets. We need to create assets out of cars. And we want to create a social revolution. We want to make communities happier, healthier, wealthier, smarter. And we can do that by sharing cars. This, for me, was really exciting. This is something with purpose. And we can, like I say, we can create this out of lots of different roles and opportunities. And this is what Jen Bendar describes. Our founder, Graham, says that we don't come to work. We're a team of members. As members, we're part of a community. We don't work 9 to 5. We only work Tuesdays to Thursdays in the office, and that is our face-to-face time. It's not work time. It's not core hours. Between 10:30 and 4:30, Tuesday to Thursday, we're in the office because that's time we can spend together as a team. And then the rest of the time, I don't state Mondays and Fridays, but because it's true. The rest of the time we work when it works for us. We do things and we fit it around other things. And that, our founder, it was exactly the type of entrepreneur that Jen Bendar is describing. And that really inspired me. So at hiyacar, we have people who don't necessarily just do hiyacar. People like me. I am a Pilates teacher as well. But also we've got someone who's a wrestler, professional wrestler in the team. And they go training at lunchtime because they have to keep their body like this, and they eat a lot. Bilal eats loads. We've got somebody who is a makeup artist. We've got somebody who writes children's stories. But these people don't write children's stories in their spare time. She has to talk to her publisher during the day. That's fine, that's normal. That's the blend that we strike at hiyacar. There is no work-life balance, because a work-life balance suggests that they are in opposition. There is now a work-life blend. There is no such thing as balance anymore. And that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. We have to work hard at everything we do in life, whether that be Pilates teacher training, whether that be training to be a triathlete, whether that be a yoga teacher, a photographer, a doggy walker, everything in life we have to work hard at. We have to work hard to cook our meal at night. Well, I do, because I'm not very good at cooking. A classic example of where people work-life blend, there's a very, very practical thing that happens in offices and work environments these days, is that people listen to music while they're working on their headphones. That's a very practical, day-to-day example of how people are blending work and life. They're listening to their passions, their music, whilst they're working. So what is it that we need to do to create this feeling of hi-ho, it's off to work we go? What are the values, what are the things that we need to bring into the office to make this happen? Well, first of all, we need to ditch the term working hours. That we can throw out of the window now. But also, there are some things that we actually very practically need to think about and change our mindset. Firstly, we need to be able to trust each other. We have to be able to be trusted and also trust people that they are going to do what they say they're going to do. But also as an individual, be dependable. Complete your deadlines. Do what you set out to do, it well. Grow up, act like a grown-up. Figure it all out for yourself. Don't judge people and, value what they value and don't ask why they need to flex. Just value that they do and they value it even though you might not. So the conclusion for me is that actually, if you enjoy what you do and you bring together heart and task, you can create something that is really revolutionary and an amazing feeling that isn't about the work-life balance. I bring you a new phrase, working life. We are working our lives. We are working all the roles that we have in life. My vision is that we don't even talk about this anymore, that it just becomes life. Working all my roles, fulfilling all the roles I have, is something that is now just a reality. I adapt and prioritize every day to fulfill each of my different roles. And this, for me, brings real diversity of thought, creativity, experiences, empathy, customer understanding into any type of business. So I look back and I think to myself, the question, how do I achieve work-life balance that I asked myself 4 or 5 years ago? It's crazy. It's a question that I was never going to answer, and it was something I was never going to be able to fulfill because it suggested that work and life were in opposition to each other. And that's not true. If we bring work into life and life into work, that is something that's really powerful. Thank you for listening.